I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all for us? Yeah.
This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, we're introducing a new thing, power couples. Just like the podcast's name, Power Couples is part tongue-in-cheek, part serious, but mostly it's a fun way to hear from creative Dallas couples who are making it happen. For our first installment, we have journalists Carly and Garrett Gravleys. Both work for the Dallas Observer, among other local pubs, and Carly is a fantastic photographer. Garrett is a law student who also used to book Rubber Gloves in Denton and writes when he can for the Observer. Carly is a Boy Genius superfan and Taylor Swift scholar. We really get into their story and talk about what they'd like to change about Dallas music and even concert etiquette. I know you'll enjoy this one with Carly and Garrett Gravleys.
Hello, we are back here on the Dallas Famous Podcast from my lovely living room. We've got our first power couple episode. A little tongue-in-cheek, but also not. It's Carly Mae Gravleys, and did I say it wrong?
No, that's right.
Okay, good. I asked her before, and then I still didn't even trust myself. And we got Garrett Gravleys.
Yeah, people pronounce it Gravely like all the time, so, I mean...
Okay.
Yeah, but you pronounced it right. Yeah, it's Gravely.
Excellent.
I take it more personally than he does because it's I'm new to being a Gravely, but he's used to it.
Right.
So.
Understandable. I mean, let's just... Okay, well, on all of them, I start with... You're from Dallas, yes?
Yes.
You were from Oklahoma?
No,
where are you from?
I was born in Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
But my dad was in the Air Force, so I lived a bunch of places.
I see. Mm-hmm. So how did you land in Texas?
So we moved to San Antonio when I was like 12. And that's the city where my parents chose to get divorced. Mm. So,
okay, significant, I guess.
So I stayed there with my mom, and my dad continued to move for his career, and then after high school, I went to UNT, and my mom also moved up to the area to be with my stepdad, and I live here now. Okay. So,
how did you decide on UNT?
I was going to be a film major at first.
Okay.
So, and they have a really, it was called the Radio TV Film Program at the time. It's called Media Arts now, I think, but...
They changed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because people still say RTVF. So.
I think it's like how we still say the Bomb Factory, though.
Oh, yeah.
But... Yeah, so I was a film major, but I only went there for a semester. I dropped out. So
okay, mm-hmm. But then that's Texas.
Yeah, but I stuck in the area.
Okay.
So
I forgot to even say that you guys are journalists, photojournalist, writer. I mean, we're gonna get more into what you consider yourselves, but like just for the purposes of like, why are you on as a power couple? Because you guys both cover a lot of stuff in town, so that's why I wanted to have you on. And you're from Dallas, then you ended up in Denton too, is that right?
Yeah, so I was born in Dallas proper, but my family lives around the Sherman area. You know where Sherman is, just north of 75. So I grew up there and lived there until I was like 19 or so. When I was 19, I went to UNT and I lived in Denton for like a solid 6 years or so. Mm-hmm. Then moved to Little Elm and then got married. So we moved to Dallas, which is where we currently live.
Okay. Did you meet in Denton?
We're Allen, wasn't it?
No, I lived in. By the time we met, I lived in Allen. We lived in Denton at the same time and had some mutual friends, but we did not know each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess how did you meet?
Tinder.
Yeah, we met on Tinder. We talked. We met up in Allen where she was living for a drink, and yeah, just kind of kept in touch after that. I mean, she was a photographer.
That's not when we started dating, though.
Yeah, no, it was a little more gradual than that. So basically, she was a photographer. I looked at her photos, and she's an amazing photographer. I'm not just saying that because I'm married to her now, but like back then when I didn't even know her in person,
You were just
I
saying it
looked
because you wanted to sleep with me.
Did it work?
I mean,
No.
but
We'll get there eventually. I trust him less than I ever have at this point.
Oh, okay, I got you.
we haven't even held hands yet.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, but
Gotta prove his intentions are pure.
so she's an amazing photographer. I still feel that way, but I felt that way back then. So I was doing concert reviews and all that stuff. I was writing for the Observer, but I was always asked at the time. Paige Skinner was the editor, and she like asked me to take my own photos, and I'm just like the worst photographer. Those little iPhone photos were just an eyesore. I still cringe when I think about those, by the way. And so I said, hey, do you want to like do some photography for these shows? I mean, they can't pay yet, at least, but you know, you'll do some concert work and everything like that. We'll hang out. And I wasn't just saying that trying to date. Like, she really is a good photographer, and I really did want her to like, you know, kind of get her feet wet with it.
Sure.
Because I did like believe in her as a photographer.
So the first thing you asked me to do, this was before we had formally met in person. You were like, I am doing this, it was like the Insane Clown Posse.
No, it was Shaggy 2 Dope from the Insane Clown Posse. And the reason I asked her to do it was because, like, juggalos are, like, the most interesting people to photograph. And I thought, this will be interesting for you. You'll see some very interesting people. The crowd is more interesting than the performer in that regard, which those are, like, the best shows to photograph. Which is why I was covering it because, you know, being a not juggalo in a crowd full of juggalos as kind of an outsider was like an interesting thing, and it was an interesting story. I thought, you know, you'll probably enjoy it. You'll see some very interesting people.
But that's not what you said. You're like, hey, want to go to this juggalo function?
Just to go.
We were just still just like messaging at the time. I'd never met him in person, so I was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
don't. Thanks.
But did you?
I didn't.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she
That would have been
didn't
a
go.
great first date.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I know that, but like it is nothing against Shaggy 2 Dope and the Juggalo community. I didn't know him.
No, that makes I wouldn't go to a Juggalo show with someone I didn't know
Yeah.
either, actually.
I don't blame you. I mean, because, like, you didn't really know me all that well, and really, like, your guard is up whenever you, especially if you meet somebody through Tinder. I get that there are some scumbag men on Tinder, so
Some.
you don't know that about me, so, you know, I understand why your guard was up.
Right.
And I probably could have phrased it a little better in inviting her. I probably could have said, I probably could have gone into that whole spiel that I just went into a second ago, but I didn't. So,
Right.
you know, it worked out though.
Yeah.
I like to think that even though you declined that invitation, things worked out.
It's also I lived with my parents at the time, and I was very much, you know, still a teenager in their eyes, and it would have been, so where is this young man taking you?
Oh, right.
Like,
Oh, right. And how do you describe that if they don't understand what that is?
yeah, they didn't even know I
Yeah.
was on Tinder at the time, so that's a lot to unpack.
Okay. Okay. Was that so? Had you at that point had you done stuff for the Observer?
I had not. So
anybody for that matter.
he tells the story of like, oh, she was an amazing photographer. I'm like, I'm so glad you feel that way, because by the time we had like matched on Tinder and were like talking, I had done 2 shows ever.
Oh.
And I was pushing that, and I was wanting to do more, and that's something we had like, you know, talked about as we were like doing our like formalities and, you know, getting to know each other. But I look back at that work, I'm like, I'm glad he saw something with it, and, you know, thought it was worth like helping me network or whatever, because I'm like, I don't stand by any of that's not on my website anymore. Like,
right.
So
Well, okay, so you went to film school for a year, and then you're a photographer. Were you doing photography already?
No, that's the crazy thing. I was mostly, I was there. I wanted to be an editor, but I was also doing screenwriting, and I was kind of all over the place, you know, and I was 18, and I'm like, okay, I have like this creative energy, and I'm just going to explode it all over the place. So I was doing the editing, and I wrote a short film that got produced that semester. I was doing sketch comedy. I was like doing like bit acting and student. I was just doing everything, and that's why I didn't get very good grades. Like, and then I had to drop out.
I see.
So, but it wasn't just the grades. It was like, clearly I'm not like focused enough to be doing this at the moment. So let's take a step back and like think about this for like 3 years.
Okay, but you're. I mean, I'm getting this from Facebook, but so you studied American history.
Yeah, I got my undergrad in history. I'm currently a law student right now at UNT in Dallas.
Interesting. And are you planning on just being a lawyer when you're done? Like what kind of law?
Well, I initially came in wanting to do IP and First Amendment law, but as I was in law school, I really took a liking to criminal law. And so that's kind of the direction I'm looking towards. It's still kind of fluid right now because I just finished my first year. There's still a solid couple of years left.
Sure.
So, kind of TBD at the moment, but I think I'm going to go towards criminal and like First Amendment law. There's this attorney out of, I think she's out of like Louisiana. Her name is Beth Bourdon. She does criminal law. She's a public defender, but she also represents journalists. She'll like, do FOIA related law and everything. And so she's been able to do both of those things. And so that might be what I'm doing. Like, I'd like to do some criminal work, but also I would love to do like some Freedom of Information Act requests and some like defamation law, like defending journalists or just people in general who are accused of defamation, just because, those are often used as a weapon to silence them. You know what I mean?
Right. So I'm guessing when you become a full-time lawyer, you're not going to be a journalist anymore, right? You're not going to plan, or you're going to continue to hit
Well, I still write, and I think that I'll be writing even as I'm an attorney. I'm probably not going to be like doing the same kind of stuff as frequently as I do now. But, there are a lot of attorneys that do some writing. I actually I actually met a guy named Michael Shapiro who was an attorney. He actually worked for SMU's First Amendment Law Clinic, but then Bloomberg Law offered him a job to be a legal reporter, and he makes a lot of money doing that. So I mean, there are some like attorneys that do writing of that sort, and there are like a handful of journalists that go to law school after the fact. They're not like the majority by any means, but they exist. So I think that, I mean, I don't know what my post-law school career is going to look like, but there's a lot of opportunities there, and I could definitely write even while I'm a lawyer, so I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Okay. And I realized, going back to Carly, you didn't actually talk about your first, like, how you started taking photos.
Oh, that's kind of a weird story, actually, because I did have a camera that I was using at UNT, but I was not... I would never have called myself a photographer. I look back now, I'm like, oh, I was exhibiting photographer behavior, but I would have, I wouldn't have, that's not something that was really on my radar. But I was living at home for a while, and like I have bipolar disorder, so part of the living at home was like, okay, you're under like supervision while your mental health like levels out, and you're not going to have like some crazy episode. So during that time, I was, I was very, very like, it was weird because it was stable, but it was also sad, and I was not like happy. And after one of my hospitalizations, the last one of 2, my mom was like lovingly, you need to get out of the house more. So she was like, you should go take like a class at Carly College, just something creative. It's something to do. You might make friends, and you already have that camera that you're not using that you took to film school with you. So maybe you should take a photography class or something. And she just, that was like off the top of her head. Like, I don't know what my life would look like if she was at a cooking class or a dance class, but but I go and I'm in like photo 1 at Carly College, and I'm 21 at the time, and everyone else is like fresh out of high school, and I'm insecure about that for some reason, because they're already very talented. They've done some probably like yearbook or whatever at their high school, and I'm just as like amateur, new, green as you can be. And in the class, I did not feel like I was very good at it that entire semester, but I still really enjoyed going, and I had something to look forward to every week. And I was like, I'm gonna do the next class, and the next class was Portrait 1. And it was this really like studio intensive, like heavy class. We're using pro photo equipment, and I'd never done anything like it before, and it was very challenging, but I actually did some stuff that I was proud of in it. I'm like, this is something. I don't know, that's the end of the sentence. This is something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna do something insane. I'm gonna declare a major. So I was a commercial photography major at College, and I took every class they had, and I was in my try anything era. I did product, I did fashion, landscape, what have you. And then my best friend Netta had known some people who did like concert stuff, and she recommended that I try that as well, because as much as I liked the portrait stuff, I was very awkward with posing people. I didn't like it. It's not something that comes naturally to me to tell people like to position them a certain way. And she's like, you got to do more candid stuff, you should try doing concerts. And I was like, that sounds like a lot of fun. So I didn't go about it, I think, the way I should have. I wasn't really in touch with like the music scene at all at the time, so I didn't know like, oh, I don't know any local bands, I don't know where to start. So any like small band I liked that was coming through, I would try to find their manager or whoever's email and say, can I please, I wasn't even asking for like a pass, I'm like, I'll buy a ticket, but can I please bring my camera? And the first band that agreed to it was the Wombats at the Granada Theater, October 2018.
Nice.
And I came out of that experience like, this is it.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
So,
trust me, I get it.
And looking back, I'm like, oh, like as much as I joke now, they're like, oh, well, I don't know what he saw in them because I don't stand by it now. At the time, I was like, this is it. This is the coolest stuff I've ever done. I wanna put this on a billboard. I'm so happy with these.
Oh yeah.
Like,
no.
So.
Well, and it was great because like, well, at that time I was just like, I had just started writing and I was, doing stuff for the Observer and for Central Track, and part of that was concert reviews. And like I said, I didn't want to keep taking those crappy iPhone photos, so I still think that those earlier photos are great. I know you don't stand by them because you've like improved so much over the years, but like
the ones I did with you, I stand by quite a few of them. But the ones you saw when we were like first getting to know each other, I was like,
what was the one assignment that made you feel like this was a profession?
It was not the Wombats themselves. It was their opener, Barnes Courtney. He gave me more to work with in that he was more dynamic on stage, and it's not as easy to tell that I was standing in the same spot the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, for me, because like bands was when I started shooting first, and it was just like, I love music. If you put me on the list, I'll shoot you for free. And bands, like, unlike people, like, because I do portraits too, I do events, and like 85% of the people, 9% of people are like, I don't want my photo taken.
Right.
And you're like, thanks for coming. So with bands, like, they don't say they don't. I think I've had one band member in all the time I did it where I was like, hey, can you get in the light? And he walked into the dark. And I was like, okay, never mind, I won't shoot you. But anyway, so thanks for taking over the interview. That was my question.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
I was genuinely curious.
No, I appreciate it. Do my job. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to you a little. Your history. Like, what made you start writing? Like, not just for fun, but like,
Well, actually, it was a little later than some people think, because like I went to UNT in like 2013. I had wanted to. So I actually started off as a concert promoter. I was booking these like DIY shows with my buddy Albert. We were doing like house shows. We did some shows at rubber clubs. What started off as like just doing these DIY shows with like these small touring bands that drew like 20 people. Like I started working with agents eventually, and Josh, the then owner of Rubber Gloves, liked what I was doing, so he offered me a job running the calendar of Rubber Gloves. So I took that job in 2015 up until it closed in 2016. So I did like the farewell weekend for Gloves back then. After that, I worked at Dan Silverleaf doing the shows that I basically did at Rubber Gloves, but just bring them there instead, because Dan wanted to, he really liked the shows that I was doing. He went to Gloves a few times, really loved this stuff there, and he said, I'd love to have you do shows there. So we did, and I did that for a couple of years. But 2018, I stopped. I got really burnt out with booking, which I was getting burnt out for quite a bit.
It's a tough job.
It is. It's a very. I think I said this the other day. I'm very proud of the shows that I did, but it got to be too much. It really did kind of leave me jaded. So I was at Dan's, just kind of having a drink, and Simone Carter, she was the bartender there, and we were just talking. We were the only two people in the bar, and I basically just confided in her, saying, I'm kind of at a crossroads. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life from here on. I have this corporate job that I'm not going to have much of a future with. I don't know where I'm going to take my career. So she said, you should be a writer. You would be a very good writer. I mean, I've seen you write on social media and everything like that. You are a good writer. You have experiences that would make you stand out. You should do some writing for the Dallas Observer. So I took her word on that, and one day I realized I didn't have any writing samples, so I had seen the Jesus Lizard in Austin that weekend, so I thought I would write this quote-unquote concert review about it, not intended for publication, but I wrote it as if I was reviewing the show. So I wrote this review of the Jesus Lizard in Austin, and I sent that writing sample to the Observer editor, Paige Skinner, and this was on a Sunday night, so I didn't expect a response, much less immediately, but she responded immediately saying, I like this, you're a good writer, feel free to pitch me anytime. So from there, I started writing for them, and then I thought, Pete Friedman is doing a great thing with Central Track. I read Central Track a lot, so I talked to him and Corey Graves, and I wanted to write for them too.
Central Track was my first paying job.
Yeah.
I tagged along with you to some Observer stuff, but it was with Central Track that I was kind of finally able to come into my own, and I'm pitching and I'm doing stuff independent of him, and I'm getting paid for it. And it was Pete, and it was Alex Spicer was the editor too, that I felt I'm given this room to kind of go out and learn, and they're taking it and they're liking it, and I'm getting a little bit of guidance there. So it was
they did give really good, Pete and Corey and Alec and all, and that, they all were very involved in the growth of their contributors. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah, I know Pete, but I never got to work with him. No,
Pete taught me a lot. He really did take an interest in the direction of my career and her career. He was very involved with that. He really was very personable, and he really did take interest in that. And I like I said, a lot of the stuff that I learned from Pete. So we owe a lot to him.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him on. He said he would do it 3 months ago.
That's going to be a great episode.
Yeah, hopefully.
He's got some stories to tell, I feel like.
Yeah, be two-parter.
For me, it's I had taken these baby steps before, but with the Central Track assignments, I'm really stepping out and taking chances. And it wasn't just concerts. I did a Joe Biden rally for them when he was running for president. It was that one at Gillies, where all the Democrats, it was their Avengers moment, as I think you wrote it in the article.
Yeah. I think Pete actually wrote that whenever he edited the story. I think that was in the headline or something. I can't remember, but he said they came together. It was Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, and all these other people, and he said that they came together some sort of third-rate Avengers.
That's funny.
But that was a moment for me, because it was kind of I was being, I think, braver than I'd ever been on a photo assignment. So we were, the press, this was international news. There was a team from Tokyo there. Yeah. So this was a big deal, and we were all kind of pinned at the back of the room. A soundboard is what it would be called at concerts. And then I noticed out of the corner of my eye, some of the photographers are being kind of rounded up and led away, and I follow them Yeah.
Nice.
I would have stayed if they asked me to stay, but they didn't, so I just followed them. And they take us, there's like 5 of us out of all of the ones who came from across the country, and we are, the photo pit is what it would be at the concert.
Yeah.
Except there's even less of a barrier. We are at the podium. As Biden was walking up, he dropped a piece of paper, and one of the photographers picked it up for him.
Wow.
And I have a picture of that moment.
Wow.
So I had those pictures. I'm like, this is like, so I was really proud because like, oh, you know, Central Track and this landscape, like this is like the little guy with all these national news outlets but I feel like my photos, like that was a moment. We got the access because I like stepped out and was brave.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it's cool too. I mean, like, because Dallas is such a significant city, like to have those opportunities, not just shows. I mean, I got to do one Bernie rally. And yeah, I'm like standing next to CNN. I'm like, Jesus.
Oh, were you at that Valentine's Day one?
It was in Mesquite. Was that it?
Vandaliers were playing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was at that one too.
Yeah. Cool. I must have been. I might have met you at that one. I know I met you at some point, but
I feel like 2019 is when I really started going to more of these events, and I feel like I met people and then forgot who they were over the pandemic.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I could see that. I mean, and also, but this probably happens to you, maybe both of you guys, but people, well, you know, being a photographer, people see you at all the certain shows if you cover a certain kind of music. So people will come up to me all the time that I don't really know, and they feel like they know you, and it's cool, but it's also like I don't know what to say. You know.
For me, it's more like I'm not like approached by people that I don't know at all, but it's like I will. I am horribly face blind. So a mutual on social media that I may have known for years will say, "Hey, it's me." I won't recognize them, but I'll still be like, "It's you."
Yeah. No, I mean you got to get really good at just being diplomatic. So this brings up something I don't know why I didn't think to ask this before. How often are you guys like teaming up and working together on stuff?
Well, I'm in law school, so I don't really do that much writing, much less concert reviews. I mean, I still do it like if like it's something that's either exciting or like, you know, if Eva wants me to do it. Because the Observer's like, I mean, I just do stuff for the Observer, and other than that, I'm a full-time law student.
Gotcha.
So I try to I basically just do stuff with the Observer just because I love to be creative and still write. So I try to do like enough writing to where my creative ambitions are satisfied, but not so much to where I'm more of a writer than a law student.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because I just want to get done with law school. So we don't really collaborate as much as we used to, but we have done so. Like, we've written stories together and everything.
The last one we wrote together was the 1975 review.
Yeah, which is like a year ago.
It was in November.
They're one of her favorite bands, and she was actually supposed to review that, but something, I can't remember what happened.
I was really, really sick that day.
That's right.
And it didn't get confirmed until that day when I was already super sick. And then she got it like transferred to you. But I was still, I don't know. I was still like, I want to like power through and contribute because I know more about the band than you do. And we just kind of wrote it together. And
yeah.
Right.
But the last classic You Write, I Take Photos, I think was a long time ago. It was Tyler, the Creator.
That's right. Yeah.
The trees or somewhere else?
American
No,
Airlines.
yeah.
No, we
Okay,
didn't go to the trees
It was
one.
the
That
FOMO
was
of my life.
Yeah, I knew about it too.
And I love Tyler, the Creator, so I really wanted to go to that show. I was very bummed to miss it. But the American Airlines Center show that he did after that was...
It was excellent.
It was really good. I think that was the last time that we like I said, I don't write as many concert reviews
The
anymore.
classic, if you will.
I think one of the last concert reviews I wrote was My Chemical Romance. Like, it was that long ago.
But in 2019, we did like everything together.
Yeah. And
that's so in 2020 when we actually started dating, people were like, "Oh, just now?"
yeah.
Oh, I see. So you guys were like a working team, and then
Yeah.
oh,
We were
interesting.
best friends.
We were, yeah.
I mean, we're still best friends, but
I would
good.
I'd like to do some stuff with you again. You know, actually, like, now that we're talking about it, I don't know why it's been so long. I mean, again, I know I don't write as many concert reviews as I used to, but I would totally do it again.
But I feel like ever since I started writing, I'm more like someone like, well, you just go do both, you know?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that because that happened to me. Were you drafted into being a writer?
I mean, yes. I was. It was kind of like my joke is that I was discovered, but I was discovered by Eva, who I've known for years. It was kind of like you with Simone. I was like, oh, you write on stuff on Facebook all the time. Why don't you just write it for us instead? Yeah. I mean, I've always liked writing. I mean, I did screenwriting, and I've done all sorts of genres, but my problem with it for a long time was like, oh, I'm having to force myself to do this. I like all of my ideas, but like putting it on paper is such a chore for me, and it shouldn't be that way. So I guess I'm not really a writer. And then I start doing like reviews and writing about music and culture, like opinion, whatever, and that just comes more naturally to me for some reason. I can write 1,000 words in a night, and my mom thinks the reason for that is I never have a problem giving my opinion.
Right. I did look at your website. Do you have a website?
No, I used to, but
okay. Because I was going to go back and forth, but sorry.
No, I don't have a website anymore. So,
so first of all, so you just kind of touched on that. You like to write, well, actually not this exactly. You like to write about fan communities. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, that's just from me and my like growing up. I was and I feel like I touch on this in my writing, and it's kind of, it's becoming a bit of a bit, and I don't want it to be a bit, but it's true. But when I was in high school, and like 15, 16, 17, I was really active in fan communities on Tumblr. And it wasn't just for bands, it was like TV shows I liked too. And I've always liked these online communities with like the inside jokes. And if I like, because like I think the thing I was the most into, well, for music was probably like Arctic Monkeys. So like in Arctic Monkeys fan communities on Tumblr, all sorts of inside jokes, all sorts of little ways they make fun of the lead singer, but lovingly, of course. So if I were to like encounter someone in real life, and it's like, oh, you're in the Arctic Monkeys fandom on Tumblr, boom, that's a conversation. I think that's cool. Yeah. So
okay, you saw they're coming, right?
Yes,
Did you put in for them?
Yes.
Okay, I did not. I will not get in your way. Not that I could. All right, Taylor Swift scholar.
Okay. That was Eva Raggio said that.
Okay.
Because
that is the editor of Dallas Observer. We didn't make that clear. But I still don't know.
Arts and culture editor of the Dallas Observer, Eva Raggio. She. I'm trying to remember the context. Okay, here it is. So I put in for the Taylor Swift tour the split second it was announced. And she said, oh, I will probably be covering that because I'm the editor. I'm like, oh, yeah, obviously fair game. But, I've just put myself out there. She's like, oh, but if I don't, I'll consider you because you're like our Taylor Swift scholar.
Like, quite the compliment.
And I'm like, I guess I'll take it as a compliment.
I think she meant it as one.
I talk about Taylor Swift all the time, and it's not like always complimentary. And I had a friend recently be like, you like her music, but you're critical of her. Like, what's your thing with Taylor Swift? I'm like, she is my favorite show. Like that's how I explain it. I'm like, I am, whether I agree with her, what she's doing at the moment, or I don't, I'm always intrigued. I'm always watching.
Right.
Like,
interesting.
So.
Okay. Well, you already mentioned Tumblr. Oh, and apparently, according to your website, we need to talk to your mom as well for this interview.
That's on my Observer byline as well. Yes. That's actually a reference to Barbara Streisand. When she was first in Funny Girl on Broadway, her playbill bio was like this wall of text about all her different hobbies and things she likes to do and things she's good at that have nothing to do with musical theater. And it's very like, it's like a very like a charming eclectic read, and it's like oversharing but in a interesting way. And then the last sentence of it is, for more personal information, write to her mother.
That's funny.
So
that's funny. Okay, so let's actually no, before we get away from, like, I'm gonna get to some opinions on Dallas, but before we get there, maybe you have a story of the weirdest reaction you've gotten to one of your stories that's been published.
So there's a couple I think that could qualify. I think when I reviewed the Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks, that kind of blew up in a way that I think concert reviews normally don't get that kind of attention. And I wrote about how I witnessed some people in a section of their show where they were being a little more political. I saw a couple people walk out, and people like were like down the line accusing me of like lying about that.
Weird, like mad.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I have the timestamp of when they left, and I don't have the timestamp of when they came back because they didn't. So no, they weren't going to the bar. What do you know them? And I'm also like, yeah, my mom was there and she vouches for me, and she's not like, she's not a super political person herself. She doesn't have any sort of agenda to vouch for me. That's just what she saw as well.
Right.
So,
I mean, I don't know. I try not to respond to any of it, but I
don't respond. I just read. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't help but look at it some.
It's not healthy to read, but it's more healthier than getting in fights.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I think the weirdest reaction, I mean, I don't know about weird, but I've definitely gotten vitriol. I mean, I think one of the stories that I still get flack for is right before the pandemic, Tool played at the American Airlines Center. Me and Eva actually went to that show together. I had a seizure like not too long before then. I couldn't drive, so Eva had to take me, and she really wanted to go to that show. So she was my plus one. Nice. But I wasn't like into the show as much. It was just kind of boring. I don't know. Like, and I had listened to Tool a lot, like for like growing up and everything, and it was just. Like, it was kind of disappointing. So I wrote an article reflecting that, and people got furious. Like, they still get mad. Like, it was to a point where, like it was the most read music story that year for the website. And then, like, when they came back a couple of years later, David Fletcher, dear friend of mine, wrote a review that was more positive. Like, the headline was something like Tool redeemed themselves.
Yes, I saw.
And then,
yeah.
the lead of the story was the last time Tool came through here, a reviewer wasn't impressed. And he told me people were mad at me because I was saying they had anything to redeem themselves for. Like, Tool fans were mad at both of us. But they were mad at me, and, like, I would always see, like, these stupid, like, websites like alternativeBroNation.net or something would say the Dallas Observer did not like Tool's show. So for a while I got a lot of attention for that, but I haven't heard anything from that story in a while. What I've actually been occasionally getting messages for, I did a story. Do you know who Tom McDonald is?
I think so.
He's like some conservative rapper who, had like this YouTube following for a while, and like he had this terrible song called Coronavirus, and I did like a funny story basically talking about that song because COVID was like a new thing, and I was basically just clowning on that song. And then Tom McDonald like had a Fox News interview that really raised his profile, and now he's like huge. So every once in, and like I'm like that story is like a citation on his Wikipedia page. So every once in a while, like a Tom McDonald fan will like reach out to me through Instagram, like saying, "Ah, fuck you, how dare you? You don't know what you're talking." Like just mad, and it's like. I'm nobody. I'm just like I have like 400 Instagram followers. I'm really if Tom McDonald cares about me, that says more about him than me, to be honest. Because I haven't but we were talking about it. I think he personally made that edit on his Wikipedia page because it actually like quoted me saying Garret Gravleys from the Dallas Observer called the song like. So,
yeah. I mean, that's kind of a badge of honor, too, though, in a way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's funny. Like, every once in a while, like, I haven't gotten an Instagram message from his fans in a minute, but, like, every time I do, I'll, like, tell Carly about it, and, like, I'll do a dramatic reading of it.
I think, the dumbest, and, like, I think, compared to, like, what the article actually was, I think, very random response. So I did like a listicle last year that was like 8 Christmas songs, like 8 modern Christmas songs that don't suck or whatever, and it was just like it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just here are like 8 like original newer Christmas songs. I'm over explaining it. That's all it is. But one of like on Facebook when I posted it, like a former coworker, this guy I barely know, like decided that this was like his opportunity to like flex his indie cred. And he was like, if you've ever heard of Death Cab for Cutie, they did a cover of Baby Please Come Home. And I just responded, this list isn't covers. And then he says, well, Julian Casablancas has an original. I'm like, So I just I responded in like a childish way because it's Facebook and this is someone I actually know. I found that this tweet from when Stephen Hawking died. Kirstie Alley tweeted, "You had a good go at it. Thanks for your input." And I just responded with a screenshot of that tweet, and then he blocked me, and I'm like, right. Sorry. I think that Death Cab is a little better than Not Sucking.
It's like it's a listicle about Christmas songs. It's not like it's nothing to lose a friendship over.
We weren't friends though. That's the thing. I barely knew the guy.
Well,
like,
we got enough Facebook friends.
yeah, I was like, it was time for a purge anyway.
Yeah, it's like the one thing I don't like about writing, and like I've only got crap really about like when I make mistakes on a band, and which. Like I realize I'm not a really good fact checker.
Just like a minor fact issue.
Yeah, well,
that happens to all of us. Though.
I mean, I know, but I'm always like, ugh, like how did I miss? Like I just did Love and Rockets, and
how was that show?
it was unbelievable. It really, I mean, and it was half empty, which is sad. But it's just because people don't know them.
Peter Murphy's got a lot of fans here. I'm surprised that it wasn't well attended.
Well, he wasn't there. I mean, he's not in that band.
Oh, he's not?
No, it's Peter Murphy is his own thing, and then the rest of the guys did Love and
Well, I know
Rockets.
he's doing Bauhaus right now. I didn't know.
Well, no, they didn't. Like they were all going to do Bauhaus, and then he went to rehab, and like that's never going to happen now.
I think I remember that. I didn't know he was out of Love and Rockets. I have a lot to keep up with.
Well, yeah, it's been 20, 30 years, 40
Yeah.
years. Anyway, but the point is the mistake I made was there was 3 guys in this band, and I put 2 of the guys were from Bauhaus, and I had the wrong guy. And the way I found out was the publicist hit me up because some Sydney website stole my entire article, took my name off of it, but because I had my name on all the photos, my name kept appearing. And so he's like, first of all, can you correct this? And second of all, how many people are you writing the article for? And I was like, they stole it. I don't even know who these people are. Anyway, look, you guys can look forward to that. That'll be happening too.
Yeah, no, I mean, we like, that happens to all of us though. We'll always, like, every once in a while we do a story and like there's a little minor thing, and you know, we're human beings, we're fallible. There's like occasionally sometimes where we have to, we do corrections for a reason. You open the New York Times, they do corrections. Yeah. Like, and I don't, reach out to me if you ever find an error in one of my stories. I will be glad to correct it and apologize and all that stuff. But I've seen people be dicks about that before. That's weird to me.
Yeah, that is weird.
I did a review for Consequence. It was the Mars Volta. And obviously, I was at the show. I wrote the review. I know what city I live in. But in their... when they posted on Facebook, they made the mistake of saying it was a Houston show. They fixed it. But there were still like a ton of comments like, ew, like, why would you let someone review it who wasn't even there, who doesn't know what city it's in? I'm like, why would you comment if you didn't read it?
Because that's the most fun. That's the most fun of all. Well, we're going long, but I got just one last question for both of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that we enjoy Dallas because we live here, right?
Yeah, I live here on purpose at this point.
Yeah, me too. So, and I guess more specifically about the music or the arts community, what would you change about it if you could?
That's a good question.
It's tricky, I realize, and I can edit the space out if I need to.
Well, I mean, I think a friend of mine, Webb, who works at Rubber Gloves, like said something to me a few years ago that I just noticed and is always true. I mean, there's always like a pendulum effect with like Deep Ellum versus Denton and Fort Worth. Like one decade, Deep Ellum is thriving and, you know, taking all the touring shows away from Denton and Fort Worth, and then the next decade, it's like Denton and Fort Worth have dominion, and then Deep Ellum like is having its bus cycle. I think right now we're seeing the bus cycle for Deep Ellum, like a lot of venues closing and all that stuff. I mean, I think it doesn't really help that like you hear all this hysteria about crime and Deep Ellum being so bad. Meanwhile, a lot of shows are going through Fort Worth. A lot of them are going, I mean, more Fort Worth than Denton, but they're still going through both of those cities. It's weird keeping up with that, you know, it's kind of stressful. That, like, and also, like, I don't know. I would also say that, like, in Denton at least, I would understand that this has changed, but like whenever I was in Denton doing shows, like we would do shows at J&J's and it was like a $5 cover, and people would always turn away and not go in because they weren't expecting to pay.
Right.
Like, people used to be cheap about that.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's people aren't as cheap, but things are more expensive now. The shows are more expensive after the pandemic, so it's like the same thing with, but like that people would kill for $5 shows now.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, like, Rubber Gloves, first off, they're just killing it. They're doing, like, the best they've ever been. Like, you know,
good.
back whenever I was working there, like, the vision that we had for it was exactly what they're doing, but they're doing it better. So, they're just killing it. And, like, a lot of their shows are, like, at the very least, like, $10 or something. I actually played a show there, and that was $5. But, like, the lion's share of it's like $10 or more, and I don't hear anybody complain about it anymore. Right. So,
what I will say, I see this, and I see this needs to be incorporated at more larger shows, smaller shows too. But I mean, you'll know what I mean when I say it. When I was covering the Sabrina Carpenter show at the Factory, that's kind of a younger crowd. There's this big discourse right now about concert etiquette, the way fans are behaving, etc.
Sure, throwing stuff and.
Right. So, and what I liked is that the policy the security had there, I think, was excellent, because what I see all too often, and what's not getting talked about enough, like the throwing stuff, is people passing out either because they refuse to go get water and lose their spot, so they're hurting themselves because they want to be close to the stage, or maybe it's not quite the medical attention they're making it out to be, but they want their the artist to notice and talk to them and ask if they're okay. So I was talking a little bit about this with the security at the Factory, and they're like, oh yeah, if anyone passes out, they get kicked out. We make sure they need no further attention. We make sure they have water and that they're okay, and then they're asked to leave and go home. I'm like, harsh but fair, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you can't handle yourself, then you have to learn for the next time somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and these are all very young people, and I get that, like getting in step with like how to act at a concert, there's a bit of a learning curve to it. I get it, but you do have to learn. We don't make excuses for that.
I mean, I've been to Toyota Music Factory, and I forget what show it was, but they were pulling people out of that front, like the 20 or 30 kids got dragged out. I mean, and the good thing is I have seen this in a lot of places where security is giving water to people, like, which they didn't used to do.
which I think is great.
Yeah.
But I also like people at the barricade were treating security like waiters, and I didn't like that.
Well, that's different. Yeah,
so,
like, you know, if you, like, honestly, again, you already said it. It's like there's concert etiquette and there's a learning curve to it.
Yeah, I think really, like, yeah, that's kind of the extent to which I would change things. I mean, apart from, like,
and that's not a Dallas specific thing.
Apart from, like, the Bomb Factory and Canton Hall not having the charm that they used to, at least in my opinion. Again, no disrespect to AEG or any of them at all. Like, they are great at what they do. They've brought in some great shows that I consider to be one of the greatest shows. They're, you know, but apart from that, what I would change is mostly, like, concert etiquette. We talk about this a lot. Like, there is just, like...
Because I go to so many younger skewing shows, so I just see it firsthand. I saw Boy Genius at Reset. Twice in the same song, people stopped the show asking for a medic. And what I think the artists could, like, not the artists themselves, I know they mean well, but we just have to, like, adjust so we're not rewarding certain behavior. I don't think it's the artist's job to do something. No. I don't think the artist should be talking to the fans. I think at most they should be making sure security knows, but they should not be talking to the fans. They should not be stopping the show.
Yeah, I think
that's how I feel.
I haven't thought about that, but you're right, because that's just encouraging people to
exactly.
do that.
And Boy Genius, like, it was interesting seeing that in person, because, and I would never put this on a specific person. I'm just talking about where this phenomenon began. When concerts were first coming back, I believe it was viral videos of artists like Phoebe Bridgers doing a nice and kind thing and making sure people are okay. That went viral. But unfortunately, people saw that as an opportunity to get a one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, that's tough, because as the artist, you don't want to look like a jerk. You want to look compassionate, but it's like you're doing a job, and
but it's a jerk to the rest of the audience to stop the show.
Yeah, and it's not the artist's job. There's other people there that can handle that.
And like that, we're seeing Boy Genius again in Philadelphia. Like, we're flying down for that, because, like, no, she's like
super fan. No,
she's a big fan of, like, Julian Baker and, like, Lucy Dacus and all of them. So we are just traveling for that. Like, Julian Baker, like, I met her a couple of times. She was really nice.
Tell a story. Go ahead, brag.
Oh, okay. So Julian Baker played at Rubber Gloves in 2016. That was her first Texas show. She was just starting out whenever she did that.
And who booked it?
I did. But no, and then like afterwards, like I went to South by Southwest the day afterwards, and like ran into a friend group, and Julian Baker was part of that. So we just hung around like in Austin for a couple hours. So I got to talk to her. She was really nice. Obviously, I haven't seen her again since then. I mean, I've seen her play since then, but like I've never, but like. That was before, like, this, like, there's a scene right now that's really taken off.
So it's like, it used to be called, well, I mean, it's still called this, but like the sad girl indie music, I don't think that's fair. I don't think a lot of these artists you're talking about that's like representative of what they're doing. Like, yes, there's sad music, but everyone makes sad music.
Sure.
The sad 20-year-old who's modeled her personality off of Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can cut that out if you think we're going to get canceled over it.
I don't even know who these people are.
Oh, do you not?
Like, that's how old and out of touch I
Phoebe
am.
Bridgers is like really, like, she's huge right now.
She was touring with Taylor Swift, featured on a Taylor Swift song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Actually, there was a picture of Kendall Jenner the other day buying a Phoebe Bridgers record. So, like, yeah, that's like, it's pretty
big.
Yeah, so it's like artists like Phoebe Bridgers and Clairo, and like, I mean, people call it the sad girl indie, scene.
But of the sad girl indie scene, Boy Genius is probably the Nirvana.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So-
would say that's a good comparison. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I mean, it's like a big sound on like social media, on TikTok and everything like that. Like, I mean, but
I must have heard it because I do watch video reels
yeah,
and stuff. So.
no, like I was just telling her this the other day. I was just like, I was listening to like a lot of these people on TikTok with like ukuleles and everything, and I was just telling her, this just sounds like Dear Nora. This like the Dear Nora was a band like 25 years ago that did the exact same thing. I mean, it sounds just like them, but it's like not as good, It's kind of like how whenever grunge took off, like before Nirvana got big, like it was kind of a niche little movement. But then after Nirvana got big, all these Kurt Cobain copycats came out.
Right.
Bush, Creed, like Candlebox. I don't know, but
it's funny for me. Like when I was younger, it was like the British invasion. So like as I was in bands, it was like, I'm just sticking with the British accent. And then I got older, and Bjork became super influential. I swear to God, there's so many American women who sing with an Icelandic accent, like a touch of it, because of Bjork, whether they're aware of it or not.
That's actually an interesting observation, because that's like, it's often, I've heard people talk about that, but they don't mention Bjork or Iceland. They say they either call it I've heard it most often called singing in cursive.
Oh, okay.
So they'll be like, so maybe like, I think the artist who I think has gotten the most shit for it is probably Halsey.
Yeah.
And she's improved a lot. But at the very beginning, yes, it sounded like this.
Yeah.
Welcome to my kitchen.
Right. I swear, I give Bjork credit. That's my opinion, but I think that's where it came from. You guys, we are getting to the end here. This went well. I think power couples is a thing.
I think so. I mean,
yeah.
it's...
No, I hope it was okay.
Yeah,
I
no.
hope we were powerful enough for
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. You guys, what's next? Where can we find you?
Like on the internet?
I mean, we'll have links, but if you wanted to say.
I'm on Instagram, and I'm sometimes on TikTok.
Okay.
And I just deleted Twitter.
Yeah. You're about a year behind, but okay.
Yeah.
I kept it for research purposes.
Okay, fair. That is fair.
But now it's officially like
I
a
started
dumpster
getting
fire. So.
angry. Like, I dropped it the day before he actually bought it because I was just mad about like the way I was like reacting to trans people. Everyone's like piling on trans comments, and I'm like, are you guys for real? It's like, oh, there's no more restrictions. Everyone can just be a jerk now, like to full extent.
I stayed on, I think, for a while, just to kind of stay connected to things and the people who were on there. And then I kind of made the choice. I really wasn't like super active on Instagram socially until the past year or so. I mostly used it for portfolio stuff. But now that I'm a little more active on Instagram and connected to my friends on there, and I'm just like, I don't need this.
You don't need it. You don't need it.
Anyway, hey, again, thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my guests Carly and Garrett Gravely, Unstoppable by Celine Narala. You can listen to the Dallas Famous podcast every week on Deep Ellum Radio, Sundays and Tuesdays at 1 p.m., and then again on all the podcast places. Thanks again for tuning in.